An early November morning. Johan has been out for a run in the forest behind the farm, while I've been dropping off Vera at school. Another day of building our 52-foot sailboat starts.
So it's time to get these two compartments painted. I've sanded everything now, and I will wipe it down with some acetone. And now I'll just wipe it with a tack cloth, and then I will wipe it again with some acetone. I've decided to use a 2-component polyurethane type of paint, high gloss, to make it easy to keep these areas clean. I think I said in the past that we were going to use like a barrier coat epoxy paint in here, but I decided that that's not really necessary with the amount of epoxy that we already have in here in the laminate. And I like to have the bilges white or close to white, makes it easy to spot any dirt, and just keeping it clean. So this has now cured overnight. I left the heater running pretty late, but as you can see, it hasn't covered very well, so I need at least another coat on this. But I want to do some more work up here today without having to think about wet paint here. I will wait with this and do the second coat, the last thing today. I will start taking up the holes through that watertight bulkhead so that we can start installing the cable transits, the watertight cable transits from Rockstick that we're going to have up here. So this is how the cable transits looks, made from fiberglass, so that we can tab them in place once we have them. Drill the hole, glue them in, and then we're going to tab them. And then the cables are going through, and you place like seals around each and every cable that will be compressed, which creates like a gas and watertight seal around each and every cable. And then there's this shape, which we'll use between the engine compartment and the rest of the boat, which has room for a lot more cables, which we'll have back here. In the forward cabin, one of these would probably be enough, but just on the limit. So I'm thinking we're mounting 2 of these, because you never know in the future if you want to add something. So it's good to have some spare capacity.
When the cable transits and recesses were laminated, Johan prepared for the second layer of paint.
Time for round 2, second layer of the polyurethane paint.
You can still see through the paint a little bit, so we're probably gonna do a third layer to get full coverage.
So I'm thinking I will start ripping and planing some of those strips that we're going to have on the hull sides. And like I said before, we're going to use teak for that. And we got a lot of teak in the same batch when we bought all that cedar for the hull and the mahogany. Enough of it, I'm thinking, that we could build the whole interior of the boat from this sort of teak. And this teak is not any sort of teak. This is actually old growth teak from Burma, logged in the beginning of the 90s. Very hard to find nowadays and very pricey if you happen to find any of it. And at least to my knowledge, it's not exported anymore. There's an export ban on this. So if you happen to find any, it's often because it's been logged a long time ago and just been sitting around, like in our case. And I can tell you, it will be pretty nerve-wracking putting the saw to this material, being that rare and expensive. And of course, we want to make good use of this sort of material. But I'm thinking building the interior of this boat that hopefully will outlast us is the best type of use for this sort of timber. But you don't want to make any mistakes, so I'm going to think twice, maybe 3 times before I make any cuts in this teak. So I have a smaller piece here that I'm going to use to try to determine the exact thickness that we're going to have on these strips, because we don't want them to be too thick, wasting material and adding just weight, and not too thin, because then they will be too flexible. So I think it will be fantastic to be able to use this type of high quality and really nice timber for the interior. It's not often that you get to work with something like this nowadays. And it also feels good that this is not something that's been logged nowadays, because obviously you shouldn't use this type of teak if it's been logged nowadays, because it's been logged too heavily. But this stuff has been sitting around, like I said, since the beginning of the 90s, and then you just better make good use of it. So normally on this type of timber, I would like to rip it in a bandsaw just to keep the waste as low as possible. But unfortunately, the bandsaw that we have, it doesn't have enough capacity to handle ripping like this. So we need to do it on a table saw like this, but at least I ordered a thin curved blade, so we get pretty close to the same curve width that we would get using a bandsaw, at least a big bandsaw. Because when you're ripping this amount, it actually makes a big difference how much is lost just from the blade.
Time to make the stanchion bases, and Johan uses old ice cream boxes as molds. The stanchion bases had cured and Johan cut them in half.
All of the stanchion bases in the forward cabin is now glued and tabbed in. And now we have 80 millimeters of solid glass in these areas. And later on we'll drill a hole from the deck side with the router and mount duplex steel rods in those holes. And that will be like the base for the actual stanchions that will go over them. We will also have a big ring welded to those studs to help spread the loads that can be applied to those studs from the stanchions. But I think this will be very strong since it's tied into the hull side and also the deck. And with that ring spreading the loads at deck level, I think the likelihood of that duplex steel rod of snapping is very, very low. And the biggest upside of this is that there won't be any leaks, no bolts coming through that needs rebedding in the future. Finally, we have the correct insulation here for the forward cabin. The first packages, as you know, they sent us the wrong thickness. And then the replacement shipment for that with the correct thickness, those packages got lost somehow. And now finally we have all the packages here in the correct thickness so that we can start on that project of getting the forward cabin insulated. But before I can mount any insulation on the hull sides, I need to think through the electricity up here. Where are we going to have cables or lights in the ceiling? Where are we going to have outlets, AC, DC? Because we need to mount cable conduits for that, and also the cable trays that are running on the side of the hull down here, leading up to the cable transit that I did the other day. I need to take up a hole here in this wall. The conduits is just normal PVC pipe. We'll also use flexible conduits for places where we don't have room for this. And the cable tray is made from acid-proof stainless steel, and we'll run this along the hull side all the way back to the engine compartment. And this will have a lid later on to protect the cables. We might run 2 of these side by side so that we don't have to mix AC-DC electricity. And also, if we have any hoses, we're going to run those at the bottom. So if there's any leak, that won't drop down on the cables.
Fint. So this is the teak that Johan ripped and planed the other day, and we think it looks very nice.
Yeah, I love it. And we'll try to have a matte finish on it, so it won't be shiny, but we'll have some sort of varnish on it, I'm thinking.
And we love the teak, the color of it. It goes a little bit more to brown gray type of color, compared to, for example, mahogany, which is much more go to red. So these teak strips will cover the whole hull sides on both sides, and we will have a small tiny gap in between.
Yeah, and a small radius on the edges. Yeah.
So now they are completely straight, but there will be a small radius of around 3 millimeters. So the finished look will be like it is a small gap. And then we will have screws then into these, and we have decided that we will cover the screw.
Yeah,
what do you say that? Plugs. Teak plugs.
Teak plugs, yeah.
So you won't see the screws. No. We think that will give a more clean look.
Yeah, I think so too. The downside, of course, is that it will be a lot harder to remove them in the future. So we really need to think everything through, that we have enough of these conduits and everything in place. so that we don't have to take them down. But I think this teak is just fantastic.
It's so beautiful.
Do you feel how much oil there is in this compared to the teak that you buy in the ship chandler?
Definitely, yeah, for sure. So this teak we're now gonna match with another type of material that we're gonna have on the bulkheads. So in this cabin we have 3 big bulkheads and then a small piece here where the door is to the entrance where you're going out to the galley.
Yeah, some sort of, what is it called, the wall covers, not wallpaper, but made from vinyl, but it should look organic. And there's a lot of different types on the market, and we still haven't found exactly which one we should have. But
and maybe we go for a bit different colors in the different cabins. But of course something to match with the teak. And what's so good with these wall covers is that they're a little bit thicker in material. So it means that we don't have to spend the hours of, sanding and fairing, which we would have to do if we were just going to paint these surfaces.
Yeah.
So it will save a lot of time.
And it also creates a nicer environment because the sound, you take away these really hard surfaces on the walls. So the feel, how the sound travels in the boat will be.
Yeah, I think it will be a much warmer atmosphere.
Yeah.
But we haven't decided which ones yet.
Yeah, and then we have the ceiling, of course. We also have to decide what we're going to have up here. Probably some vinyl as well, together with teak strips.
So we have a couple of conduits up already.
Yeah.
And we decided on having 4 spotlights here above the bed. Yeah. And then maybe 2 here in the entrance next to the closet. And then we'll have some electric outlets next to the bed to charge phone and other things.
And then we'll have bed lights as well on this bulkhead, I'm thinking now.
Maybe we'll have a small TV there, or we're gonna at least prepare for to have the option.
Yeah.
Maybe some light in the closet.
Yeah. There's lots of, like I said it before.
Maybe an LED strip of light close to the floorboards, something like
it's
that.
It's better to plan.
To have more.
To have everything, and then you can always take that away because it's quite easy to run conduits now, but once we have the teak strips up, it will be a lot harder. So we should really try to think this through, what we want to have and where.
So that's all for this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And when you're watching this video, we have been at the Met's Trade for a couple of days in Amsterdam, the world's biggest boat equipment show, which we visited last year. So hopefully we have returned with a lot of, insights and inspiration of things that we want to use.
Yeah, hopefully. Take care.
Take care, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can join our Patreon crew if you want to support our production. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.